Hello there, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome, of course, back to Rule of Two Review. And today we're going to talk about Nintendo Switch games. So with the Nintendo Switch just barely over a month away, we're all starting to get hyped. We're starting to freak out. We cannot wait to pick up our Nintendo Switches and grab those Joy-Cons and grab that tablet controller and just do the business, man. We are ready to do the thing with the Nintendo Switch, and we all know it's going to be so great. But we're getting to the point where now we need to start thinking about the larger library at stake with the Nintendo Switch. So I thought that it would be fun because I like to every once in a while do a list. I've even actually did 2 lists just last week, which is really crazy. I like to do list videos, and I thought it would be fun to talk about the 5 games that I most want to see show up on the Nintendo Switch. Now, of course, 5 games sounds like a really small number, and there's a reason for that, and that's because it is a really small number. I initially was going to make this like the top 7 or the top 10, but it's like, okay, I make long enough videos as is, everyone makes top 10 lists, this or that, and it's like, you know, it's sometimes less fun to give yourself so much room to include so many perfect, wonderful dream titles. So I thought it would be a little bit more challenging and exciting for me to whittle it down to just 5. Because trust me, I probably had about 13 or 14 that I put together on a list before I decided how many games I wanted to include and then what games I wanted to include in what order. It was really challenging. There are a lot more than 5 games I want to show up. But we're going to pick the 5 most special games to me that I really, really want to see show up on the Nintendo Switch. Now, it should be noted, the one real preface, or the preface I want to give, and the caveat to this list, is that I wanted it to be stuff that's fairly close to being possible, somewhat on the radar, maybe discussed, wouldn't be happening years down the road. We're not talking about like Resident Evil 8, or Final Fantasy 16, or the next Zelda after Breath of the Wild. Nothing like that, nothing too crazy. This is stuff that's somewhat in the realm of possibility, like I said, maybe even been discussed within the industry or rumored the last year or so, and really could be something that we could potentially see. No matter how crazy it may be, it still could be a reality on the Nintendo Switch if stars aligned appropriately. So those are really the kind of titles that I wanted to go for here. Nothing super crazy, stuff that actually is grounded in reality. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started on my number 5 most wanted game on the Nintendo Switch. So coming in at number 5 is more of a blanket sort of title, and that is going to be Star Wars games. Just Star Wars titles, because man, we are at the point where not only do I want them on the Nintendo Switch, I actually just want them. Period. I've talked about it so many times. The situation with EA and their 10 years of licensing with Star Wars games. The first game they gave us was okay. Star Wars Battlefront is a good game, but there's so much they did wrong with it as well. And last year at E3, they promised us all these great things. They were just promising us the world when it comes to Star Wars games. And we have 7 teams making 48 different Star Wars titles, and this and this and this and this. We know Respawn's game is coming. We know Battlefront 2 is coming. We know maybe BioWare is going to be doing something. I mean, probably crap on mobile. Who even knows? But the point is, I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars games. I want more of them. I want Star Wars games covering a breadth of content, a breadth of genres, and a breadth of eras. I want my prequel era stuff to show back up in video games again. I want some more stuff set within the new era, you know? I mean, hell, if we have to go back to the Old Republic for the millionth time, I mean, even that would be fine. I do still love the Old Republic. I think it's been done too much, but I love it. So I would welcome anything within this new kind of era of Star Wars. And when I consider it showing up on the Nintendo Switch, it's like, you know what? That's pretty important. I have to say, I don't know how much I really believe that we'll ever truly get Star Wars games from EA back on a Nintendo console, or at least on the Nintendo Switch. Down the road, Nintendo may be able to get that stuff back. With the Nintendo Switch, it's really a toss-up, and I don't know that I see it being an actual reality. But I do have to say, I think Star Wars games should have a home on a Nintendo console and on the Switch. I think that Star Wars and Nintendo could very potentially coexist very harmoniously if treated with care and treated properly between both Nintendo and EA and Lucasfilm. So with any luck, when, you know, sometime before the end of the year 2017 and into 2018, we know that more Star Wars games are finally going to start coming down the pipe from EA and everyone over there. So with any luck, they do pull their heads out of their asses and they realize, hey, we need to get Star Wars content on as many platforms as possible. And Nintendo has this brand new awesome system, the Switch. Hopefully it will have been selling well by the time, you know, the end of the year rolls around. And EA is like, yeah, we should bring Battlefront 2 to the Switch. Yeah, we should bring Respawn's game or whatever else we want to do. Resurrected, Star Wars 1313, all these different things. I truly think that Star Wars games belong on the Nintendo Switch and belong on a Nintendo console. I don't know how much I believe it, but I sure do want it, and so that's why it's my number 5 game. Coming in at number 4 for my most wanted Nintendo Switch titles is The Wonderful 102. Obviously, The Wonderful 101 is a huge cult classic. It's a very, very popular cult favorite sort of game on the Nintendo Wii U. And it was an exclusive made by Platinum, a third-party exclusive game for the Wii U. The Wii U actually had a fairly sizable library of exclusive third-party content. I thought that was pretty cool. And Wonderful 101, I keep wanting to say 102. Wonderful 101 is almost my favorite. Obviously, Bayonetta 2 is the other one, and Bayonetta 3 certainly was almost the Platinum game I was going to include here. But it's like, you know what? Wonderful 101 is like more of a niche title and something that more spoke to me on like a personal level. Bayonetta 2 was so flashy and so obviously good that everyone loved it, and deservedly so. But Wonderful 101 is like a specific kind of game, and it has a specific sort of fanship, and I fall within that fanship. And I love it so much that the idea and prospect of a sequel still being exclusive to a Nintendo console and showing up on the Switch, oh my gosh. And I think that Platinum would do really cool things with the Joy-Con controllers. I actually think there's potential for them to do some neat stuff. And just the characters and the world and the setting and the tone of that first game, the dialogue and voice acting was so stupid good. Like, it's insulting almost how good it all was in that game. And it didn't get, you know, the high sales that a lot of us wanted. And to be fair, the gameplay sort of made it so that it wasn't a mass appeal title. And that's okay. But I do know that Platinum has joked around and toyed with the idea of a sequel. We'd have to think, man, Nintendo would probably work really hard or pay really hard to keep it exclusive. And it's also entirely possible that Nintendo owns the IP. Even though it was developed by Platinum as a third-party studio, I think the Wonderful 101 IP might be owned by Nintendo. I don't 100% know those legal factors. Maybe some of you guys out there do, so you can state in the comment below and yell at me for being wrong if you want. But regardless, when I think about a sequel to this game and it's showing up on the Nintendo Switch, even if it wasn't exclusive, let's say it was a multi-platform game, I still want to see this game show up on the Nintendo Switch. Wonderful 101 is like maybe one of my 10 favorite games of all time. Maybe. I have like 40 games in my top 10 favorite games, so figure that math out. But goddamn, it's so great, and I would just kill for a sequel to show up on the Nintendo Switch. Coming in at number 3 is a very special title, and it's even recently kind of been teased, which gives me so much hope, but I have to be careful with that hope. And that is going to be No More Heroes 3. For the love of all video games, the gaming gods need to deliver upon us a third title with my main freaking man, Travis Touchdown. Oh, how I love Travis Touchdown and the No More Heroes games. They are not mechanically perfect. I've talked about that so many times. That's sort of the way Suda51 makes his games. And it's why anyone who wants to be critical of them from that standpoint, it's like, well, I can't really argue against you. That's fine. But what he lacks in that mechanical ability, he just makes up for in unbelievable substance and style. And really clever, witty dialogue, and like just perfect sense of humor that doesn't like overblow itself and doesn't overwhelm the gamer, but seems right and perfect within the context of whatever game or character you're experiencing at that time. And No More Heroes to me is probably the perfect example for that. Killer 7 is the other one that really makes a big sort of combats that idea when I think about, is it No More Heroes and Travis Touchdown, or is it Killer 7 and all of those characters? I don't really know, but regardless, I love No More Heroes, you guys. And Suda51 was on frickin' stage at the Tokyo event, and the translator didn't know shit diddly of what he was trying to say, but he was on stage talking about Travis Touchdown with this huge picture of Travis behind him. Oh my god, I got so excited, you guys. I got goosebumps. I got tingles and chills. I was like, please make this game happen. It's another one that I can't say I have to have show up on the Nintendo Switch. It could be multi-platform. It could even be not on the Nintendo Switch, I guess. I just want the game to exist. But when I think about it still remaining exclusive to Nintendo and exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, that does get me the most excited because I always believe in exclusive content. And I want this game to exist, either multi-platform or exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. No More Heroes and Travis Touchdown, I think if there was a couple of modern sensibilities added to that game, and they did sort of make it a little bit more mechanically appropriate for today's gaming standards compared to, 5, 10, almost 10 years ago when the first game came out, I think that would be smart, and I think that series and that character has legs, and you could introduce it to this whole new younger audience that didn't play it back in, I want to say, 07 or 08 when the first game came out. Like, people have really been missing out on this, man, and I think that No More Heroes and Travis Touchdown, I could say it a million times, the game and the characters should come back, and I really hope there was something to Suda51 being on stage, and we are going to get No More Heroes 3 on the Nintendo Switch. Coming in at number 2 is a game that a lot of you probably won't be too terribly surprised to hear me say, but I gotta stick to my guns on this one, man. I gotta keep bringing it up until we finally find out what the hell is happening with this game, and that is Beyond Good and Evil 2. God damn it, give us Jade and Paige and that world back. Bring back Hillis or wherever else that you're going to take us within, you know, the vast universe that is the Beyond Good and Evil story. There's so much to happen there, and it's weird because Beyond Good and Evil has had like a topsy-turvy life cycle, you know, especially the sequel the last couple of years. I'm someone who played the original game when it was brand spanking new, 2003, on my GameCube. I still have my copy of it. I will never get rid of it or part with it. It's incredible, you guys. Like, that game and that story and the mechanics and, like, the open worldness of it was all fairly new. That was when we were starting to break new ground and new territory with certain elements of game development and gameplay and storytelling. And I think that Beyond Good and Evil was this really cool fantasy setting kind of game to start to do that a little bit more and take it to the next level that, like, Grand Theft Auto 3 put in place. Even though Grand Theft Auto 3 was more open and a bigger world, there were different elements that Beyond Good and Evil brought into it and a different sensibility and tone that I think made it an evolution of what Grand Theft Auto 3 did first. So I don't know, guys. It's just, I just want this game. And Ubisoft has been teasing us, and it keeps showing up and going away, you know, at E3, the last, like, 73s in a row. And now we've had the whole thing with Michel Ancel's Instagram account a couple of months ago, and there was all these rumors it was going to show up at the Tokyo event, which, by the way, it didn't. So all these people saying, I've got the inside source. The big final trailer reveal at the Tokyo event is going to be Beyond Good and Evil 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Guess what? Didn't happen. So what does that mean? I'll leave you guys to figure out what that means when it comes to the rumor mill. But I will say, I do still think there is some sort of movement happening with this game. I really want to believe that all that stuff coming from Michel Ancel's Instagram account was Beyond Good and Evil 2 related and was saying that this game is in development, it's going to be shown soon, it's going to be releasing soon, and there's a lot of evidence pointing to it coming out on the Nintendo Switch. Whether it was exclusive or multiplat, the fact that it might be coming to the Switch is even more exciting. Like, I want to continue my Beyond Good and Evil journey on my Nintendo console. We have to remember the first one was not exclusive. It released on the PlayStation 2, the original Xbox, and the GameCube. It was a multi-platform game. So it wouldn't break my heart if it came out the same way again on the PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch in 2017 or 2018. That's fine. But I do certainly want it on the Switch, and I do need to play this game. Jade needs to make a mighty return, just like Travis Touchdown before her. So for the love of God, let's make Beyond Good and Evil 2 a reality, please. And number 1, it's like I almost don't even need to talk about it, man. Do you guys even have any doubt or question in your mind with what my number 1 is? No, you don't, because it's Metroid. Obviously, it's Metroid. Samus, bring it back, Nintendo. And I know you're doing it. So when we really get to the nitty-gritty of the Metroid situation, guys, I've talked about it many times. It's my favorite series. Samus is my favorite character. Metroid Prime is my favorite game of all time. So I have a lot to say when it comes to Metroid and a lot of opinions on what's going on. There's been some talk, like last year's E3, they said some things about, oh, to make another Metroid Prime game would take like 3 years, so if it's going to happen, it's going to be way down the road. And a lot of people were like, oh, we're screwed, they're not making Metroid, they're giving us this Federation Force crap, and that's all they're ever going to give us, Metroid is dead. And not for 1 second did I ever believe that or take that away from that conversation. I've said this before, that conversation to me, he very specifically said Metroid Prime would take many years to develop. And I know that all the younger gamers and people newer to Metroid the last couple of years think that Metroid Prime is the defining Metroid idea. And it's like, well, no, it's actually not. Metroid Prime is only one of many ways we've played a Metroid game in the past. It is not the only way to play Metroid, and that was a specific series telling a specific story. Even the name Metroid Prime is an actual character in that series and in that trilogy. So it's not like to make a Metroid game means you have to make a Metroid Prime game. That's ridiculous. You could make myriad other Metroid games. That's what Other M was. I mean, look at Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, the originals. Like, I mean, there's been so many different ways that we could play a Metroid game. First person is only part of it, and the Prime lineage is only part of it. So I was like, hey, maybe they're just not making a Prime game like Prime 4. Maybe they're making something else, you know, whatever else it could be. A sequel to Super Metroid, a sequel to Other M, which I know people would cry about. I think there's potential for that. So anyway, I'm getting long in the tooth. The point is, I never took away from that Metroid was like 7 years away from coming back or anything. To me, I absolutely believe with 99.99998% sureability, which I don't even know if that's a word, but that's how sure I am about it, that Nintendo is indeed working on some sort of Metroid title for the Nintendo Switch. They are, you guys. They are making something. They know that people want it. Yes, it doesn't sell the crazy numbers that Mario does, but I don't think it has to. Like, we looked up on the podcast a couple of months ago, like, the Metroid series has sold over 18 million units worldwide. Like, that's not nothing. Metroid Prime, I think all 3 Metroid Prime games sold over 1 million copies. Metroid Prime, the first one, sold almost 2, or maybe just over 2. Like, there's money to be had. Even Other M, I think, sold 1 million copies, despite the fact that the reviews weren't very good, and people didn't really seem to like it for the most part. I like it, but other people didn't. So it's like, yeah, there's enough of a reason for them to bring back Metroid. I don't think they're going to be using Metroid Prime Federation Force as a barometer to how much people want or are interested in Metroid. And in fact, I would say if they're using it for a barometer, I think they're using it for a barometer to realize how much people want it. Because if people didn't want Metroid back so intently and in such a specific way, they wouldn't have been so toxic towards that game. And they wouldn't have not bought it and made all these videos and just talked so much shit towards Federation Force, Metroid Prime Federation Force. People would have supported it more and been happier with it. The fact that we were so vocal about why that game made us angry, I think has shown Nintendo, man, they really want their Metroid, and they want their Samus, and they want it the right way, and they want it now. So, for so many reasons, I just know, you guys, that Nintendo is working on a Metroid game. They have not forgotten one of its biggest and most important and lauded franchises. They just haven't. I know that Other M was a step backwards, and it's too bad that that played out that way, but I think that Nintendo is learning from so many mistakes that happened the last couple of years. And I think that they're going to do the right thing with Metroid. I think they're making something. It might be a 2D game. It might be a third-person game. It might be a first-person game. Maybe it is Prime. Maybe they're going to make a Prime 4, even though they said they wouldn't. And maybe Retro's making it. Maybe someone else is making it. Who even knows? But there's just so much more to Metroid than just Prime, you guys. And I say that considering the fact that Metroid Prime is my favorite game. And I'm still willing to tell you guys there's more to Metroid than Prime. And we need to have an open mind when it comes to how Nintendo could bring the series and bring the character back. I like the idea of them taking the foundation of Other M and making a better game out of it. Improve the combat, improve the story, and make it make a little bit more sense and feel more like a Metroid game. There's a lot of ways that game felt like a Metroid game, but there's a lot of ways it didn't. So I want them to just take like the base blueprint of that game and do the right thing with it. Make a better game, and I think people would love it because it's a third-person, fast-paced action game. You had more exploration, more puzzles, probably less voice acting. I don't mind some voice acting, but we don't need this huge melodramatic story. Just enough to put Samus in a situation where she needs to solve puzzles and explore and backtrack to get through to the end of the game. Like, just do that with a better version of that same engine, and it would be freaking awesome. And obviously, analog stick, hello. So that's it. I'm going to end this here. Those are the 5 games, or franchises in terms of Star Wars, that I want to see come to the Nintendo Switch within the next, like, probably 2 years. I would say this is, like, covering up to 2018. If we were going to talk about things like Resident Evil 8 or the next Zelda, we're talking about, like, 2019, 2020, 21, stuff that might not even be the Switch. At that point, we might be looking into even what's after the Switch, as crazy as that is to think about. But let's not go that far down the road, man. We still got a month to wait until we actually can buy our Nintendo Switches and experience the crazy awesome life that we're going to get from that console. A couple of honorable mentions, some games that I wanted to include that almost made the list. A new Star Fox, a new F-Zero, Pikmin 4, hello, where the hell is Pikmin 4? Dark Souls 4 or Bloodborne 2. I would love the Souls games and Atlas to bring their next title to the Nintendo Switch. We know that Atlas is partnered with Nintendo or working, developing for the Switch. And as much as, like, okay, the Shin Megami Tensei stuff is really cool and the Persona stuff, that's great. And I know a lot of people, even some of my good friends here on YouTube, are super pumped about that. And that might be a series I try to get into eventually. But for me, I want the Souls stuff. I want the Bloodborne and the Souls stuff. So that's just an example of a couple titles. I had probably 6 or 7 more that I could have also brought up. But at the end of the day, that's my list of 5 games and series that I want to see come to the Nintendo Switch by 2018. For the love of God, Nintendo and all the other gaming gods out there, please make some of these titles happen. Travis Touchdown, Jade, Samus, bring these characters to us. The Wonder Team. freaking Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Give us all of these peeps, man. We want all of this stuff to come. At least I do. Again, this was just my list, so I want you guys to talk about my list. What do you think about the 5 games that I mentioned? Which games would you like to see show up on the Nintendo Switch? Which of your games matched up with my list? Which of your games did not? Talk about that below, man. It's fun to theorize and wish for awesome games on our brand new Nintendo console, which is just a month away. It's a great time. Let's all be excited. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I will catch you guys next time on another video.